back. So as municipalities struggle to pay for fund several organizations, fund sites like the museum, the Stocky Center for Performing Arts, and then there are new projects that municipalities have some interest in, like a recreational center, a pool. Um, the subject of regionalization does come up. Now, tell me what you mean by regionalization.
Well, there are various forms of regional government, and I do have to say that my comments about regional government are my own personally. They definitely don't represent what my council's thoughts are. We've never ever discussed this at council, as a matter of fact. I also recognize that regional government is regarded as an unpopular word because as soon as people hear it, they say extra cost.
It's touchy.
It's very touchy, and I think people tell me that 30 years ago or 35 years ago, whatever it was, that Parry Sound and Huntsville were the same side, and that that side of our district was about the same as we are on this side. Well, I think they've made tremendous strides over in the Muskoka district, and I think partly it's because of leadership through a regional government. But as we move on and as we want to grow, we have to deal with common issues, with waste strategies we have to deal with. We have to deal with recreational facilities and cultural facilities. We have to deal with the healthcare issues. We talked about long-term care issues. And we have to deal with the DSAB issues in that. And I've often thought that as opposed to dealing with 6 or 7 municipalities, whatever region you want to define, we might be more efficient and effective and much more productive if we could deal with these central issues with a group that were elected to look at them and a group to lead them. And it's a formula that's worked in other areas. So I won't say that I'm advocating regional government, but I think it's an idea that deserves discussion. I think we should be thinking about starting a dialogue on that.
I think that if you compare Muskoka to Parry Sound, not too many people would argue that Muskoka has done something in terms of marketing and promotion and making itself a tourist destination, and that people in Toronto know Muskoka. They may not even know exactly where Bracebridge is, but they know Muskoka. And Parry Sound doesn't have that recognition. That being the case, why do you think there's such a hesitancy in our area to say a word like regionalization?
I think there's always a perception that regional government means extra cost. I think that too, that there's certainly turf protection. It requires people to pass on responsibilities to another group that they currently look after themselves. I think there's probably some of that, for sure.
Now, another touchy word is amalgamation. A word we heard, I guess, around 1998. There's a difference.
Yeah, it's very much of a difference.
Explain that difference for folks.
Well, regional government is where you have a sort of a second tier of government looking after common interests of a group of municipalities. Amalgamation is where one or two or more municipalities actually join together.
Right.
So if Parry Sound and Seguin Township joined together, they would be amalgamated.
Right.
But we had a regional government that was looking after the needs of the 6 or 7 municipalities in our area. That would be regional government.
Do you think there's a fear of amalgamation still that makes any word, even a word like regionalization, that much more touchy?
Yeah, it's a good point, Jack, and maybe it's a lack of understanding of the difference of amalgamation and regional government. Amalgamation only makes sense when when it's synergistic, when the 1 and 1 equals 3. I'm not sure that's the case in our area. Seguin Township, for example, is totally different in governing style than Parry Sound, which is a small urban area. We're a larger rural issue. Our challenges are slightly different. I'm not sure amalgamation is the answer, but we have a lot of common interests, and I definitely think that regional government should at least be dialogue. And one thing I do know is that I think this would be really welcomed by Queen's Park, and it would really be welcomed in Ottawa, because instead of dealing with a whole bunch of municipalities, they would be dealing with one regional government. I also think that's a much better way to source grant funds, if you want my personal opinion as well.
So is there any movement towards improving how municipalities work together in this area? It does seem like there is a little bit of a battle against identity crisis in the case of some municipalities, but has there been some progress?
Well, yeah, I think that we actually, as a group of municipalities, have worked pretty well together, and always have, but certainly before my entry into politics. The municipalities got together and they shared the capital costs part of the capital cost for the hospital. They did that for Belvedere. They did that for the Stockey Center. I mean, that's excellent cooperation. Recently, in the last year, as you know, Parry Sound and McDougall and the Township of Seguin, we all got together as partners to put together an economic development program. So overall, I think that there has been cooperation amongst the municipalities. I think like any other family, though, we fight often about the execution. And we, you know, Belvedere, we talked about Belvedere. That's a good issue. I think that Seguin's point of view is probably not shared with other municipalities. And it's easier for them not to share it because they don't have to pay very much for it. So I think I challenge the impression or supposition that we haven't cooperated as municipalities. I think there's room for more cooperation. And I think it really is time to dialogue, and should we be getting together.
So some examples where more cooperation would prove more effective. What are some examples?
I think economic development. I think the management of long-term care facilities. I think in having one solid voice to represent us in DSAB. There's no question that I think we benefit on a regional waste strategy. It's an issue now, and it will be more of an issue in the future. I think we would benefit by talking about a regional waste strategy, definitely. But you know, there's one thing about talking about it. There's another thing about actually electing a group to say, you're responsible, take care of it, do it, provide the leadership.
Right. And
there's no question in my mind, absolutely no question, that economic development would benefit significantly.
Well, let's come back and talk about a few specific Seguin Township issues next.